able to be heard now? I believe. You guys let me know what you hear. Should be started. Not seeing it updated on the screen yet. Ah, there we go. Quite the delay today. Quite the delay here. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever the hell you're at. Bonus points if you know what the magic word is and who Dr. Venkman is. And Football Master, you can't answer this because you already know the answer to that. But anyone else is free to answer. Hmm. 6 to 7 seconds isn't that long. I thought it was more like 15 seconds. I can never tell how long the delay is. I'm always trying to do the math. Elana, I can't remember your time zone. Schmeister is in the UK area, so he's 5 hours ahead of where I'm at. That puts you at 4:30 in the afternoon. So is that when your commute starts in the afternoon, Schmeister? I just have to wait for the response. So that must be boring when you guys are listening to me and I'm waiting for the response. Let me see if that's actually working. It looks like it's quite a delay here. Looks like my chat's not moving down or... Oh, sweet. Nice. So is it like a 4-day week or you have like weekend days that you have to work? I'm just being fucking nosy. I'm sorry. You don't have to tell me anything. I mean, weekend days suck, but I don't know how it works in other countries. But here, I always remember when I would work on weekends, it sucked, but it was also nice to have like a weekday when other people were all at work and you could kind of have like stores to yourself or get things out of the way you can't do on the weekends that you would need to get done, like doctor's appointments. So, oh, Biznitch got it. The magic word is please. What is the magic word, Dr. Venkman? I was wondering who would get that. Chilled at home today. Good. I'm a relief worker as part-time. Oh, okay. Nice. Hey, damn gypsy. Am I saying that right? Damn gypsy, didn't you used to have a channel? Or do you still have a channel? I cannot remember. I'm very sorry. Also, again, if anybody has a channel, make sure you share it. Let everybody know in the chat. Or if you come back and listen to this later, make sure you share it in the comment section. Unless it's something horrible, I don't hold anything back in the comment section. If it's something really, really mean, I just delete it. So Evil Satyr also has a channel. Hello, Lord Darkness. Lordess Darkness. Whatever. Thank you. Hello. Satyr has a channel too. Schmeister says I like to refer to myself as work mercenary just to be edgy. Do you go with like secret weapons taped up and down on your legs when you're on your way to work? Wish I had some more days off. Are you at work right now, Elana? I don't want to get you in trouble, so I'll whisper so no one can hear what I'm saying. But you guys can hear me, can't you? I guess I'd have to do that if I was at work and was doing a live stream. Like, I wonder if anybody's just like went in the bathroom for an hour and a half and did a live stream at their job. Oh my God. I found a large chunk, and I'm telling you, it is 22 pages long of Black-Eyed Kid stories. And not just that. There's 16 stories, but then there's a bonus story, and then there's like descriptions and encounters in between. So it's just a big, huge, long... And I don't even know if I've read any of these, but I guarantee I haven't read all of this because there's even like 10 tips to know that it's a Black-Eyed Kid type of thing. So I'm excited about it because you know it's September now. So it's officially, it's Septober is what I'll call it because September 1st, it's fucking Halloween. All right. 2 months of Halloween. 1 month is just not enough. It's just not. Let's see. 4 to 10. Ooh, that's a weird schedule. Gotta work. I got work pants with multi-pockets and eyes loaded with keys. Keys are great weapons. Damn Gypsy, I'm always at work, but thank God for YouTube. I don't know if he's still here. He pops in. He's at work, so he pops in when he's got a minute, but he's always up to his. He's literally buried in work all the time. So, yeah. Sorry. I had like a huge cup of coffee in a thermos. Not a thermos, but like an insulated cup. And I just didn't want anything hot, so I got this big, well, something from the Dollar Tree. It's just like a big water bottle, and I filled it full of ice. And then I put my coffee over. So, oh, why does it say I'm not live? Am I not live? Is this not working? Should say live, right? There we go. Okay. So something happened and I had like a delay in my screen that I was looking at. So we are reading Black Eyed Kids stories. If anyone didn't hear that, I can't wait to dive in. I think they're some of the creepiest stories. There's actually a guy who has a whole channel dedicated to trying to find the Black Eyed Kids on his property. And maybe it's just like a big hoax to get people to watch, but I'm telling you, he's got me suckered in because I've watched it. I'm going to try and find it so I can share it with you guys. I think it lets me share it. There's a guy who has a whole channel dedicated to trying to show the Black Eyed Kids on his property. Is it Fantastic Daily? That seems like it. I think we've talked about it before too. I can't find it right now, but when I do, I'll link it in the comment section. So in the UK or England, it's all one big chunk of land. Am I right? Am I wrong? Man, I really need to go over geography more. Anyway, is it predominantly cloudy there? Like you have a few like bright days, but mainly it's like kind of gloomy. I mean, that's like my dream come true. Damn Gypsy, I was in the middle of a movie and just stopped to be here. What movie were you watching? I don't want to ruin your day. At work, you're watching a movie at work and now you're listening to a live stream. What do you do that allows you to do this? I love it. Oh my God. Black Eyed Kid stories creep me out. Bring them on. Okay, so I'm going to wait for Damn Gypsy's comment there. I'll come back and look for it, but we're going to dive in to the Black Eyed Kids encounters, and there's bonus material. And each of the stories is like, usually I find them and they're like a couple of sentences. No, this first one alone is a page and a half long. So they're decent stories. I'm so proud. Usually I find crappy stories. Oh, that's awesome, Schmeister. Yes. I think that's on our my husband and I's traveling bucket list. He wants to go to Italy. I love England. We were like, he said if that's one of the places he would like to move if he could move, and I totally agree. Beautiful. I was watching a movie about the Kinsey report, and I do laundry at a retirement home. Oh, so you have like, you need to keep your ears and eyes busy while you keep your hands busy. I get it. Me too. Okay. Let's dive into the stories. I'll check the chat in a minute. This one's titled Midnight Caller. It almost felt like a dream. I woke up to my dog Lucy barking. She was upright on the bed where my husband and I were sleeping with our 22-month-old daughter, staring at our door like an unknown stranger was out there rummaging around. I thought she was just freaking out over a house noise. We'd only had her for 3 months, and she was still a puppy. It could have been anything. Our roommate, a creak from the house settling, the awnings moving outside in the breeze. I wasn't too concerned initially. I decided the best bet would be to open the door and show her nothing was there. Sounds a bit silly, but it's what we do with our daughter when she gets scared. This does sound familiar to me, by the way, but I'm going to keep going. And I figured it would work with a puppy too, so I opened the door and she raced to the front door. She stood there, snarling at the door. It was an angry, violent growl, one I had never heard her make before. I looked groggily at her and opened the baby gate blocking the doorway, planning to open the door and show her everything was okay. The second, sorry, that was right in your ears. The second my hand reached the deadbolt, Lucy went wild. She started barking and jumped toward me. When I touched the metal, she suddenly changed her temper. She whimpered, almost like she was afraid and backing down. As her mannerism changed, so did mine. I wasn't calm anymore. My heart was racing and sinking at the same time. I'd been flooded with a mixture of fear and dread. When I looked through the peephole, I can't explain why I looked, but I did. Outside were two kids. One was just a smidgen shorter than me, didn't look much younger. I'm 21 and she looked to be 16 or 17. She was slender and pale. Her hair was a light shade of honey blonde. She wore it long, about mid-back. Thin, blunt bangs in the front that covered most of her eyes. She wore jeans, a light wash that's popular right now, and thin-looking olive-colored pullover style hoodie. She held the hand of a small girl, who looked to be around 3 or 4, in the same style jeans and a button-down ivory cardigan. The smaller one looked at the floor shyly, but had the same shade of hair tied back in a ponytail. She held a stuffed toy under her free arm, and it was identical to one my daughter had, as was their style of dress. Had it not been for... Whoa, sorry, that was my dog. Come here, Trix. I have to find where I was. Had it not been for the feeling of overwhelming dread and fear, I probably would have asked these children in and given them some tea or hot chocolate and get them out of the bitter cold. But something about them seemed off. At this point, I hadn't made any noise. I hadn't shushed the dog or grumbled. Nothing. I hadn't turned on any lights, and these kids had no indicators I was at the door. Yet the older one spoke. She had a voice that was mature, confident, strong, with no accent. She held her head tilted downward, and I couldn't see her eyes, and she said, "We have to use your phone." I stood frozen in fear. How the fuck did she know I was there? She raised her head to see me directly. That's when I saw her eyes. There was a reason I couldn't see them through her bangs before. They were black, or midnight blue, or dark, dark purple. They were otherworldly. She goes on to say, "Our mother is worried." As someone who has always been interested in creepy stories, I knew that she was what she was the second she looked at me through the door. I've never been one to believe in these things, as a staunch atheist and skeptic when it comes to the paranormal. I had written off many ghost stories from friends and family members eager to tell their tale. I still didn't believe it. Still, I couldn't rationalize my way out of this. I was standing with nothing but a thin wooden door between me and a black-eyed kid. There was no questioning what was right in front of me. I didn't answer her. Slowly and silently, I backed away from the door. Lucy still cowering at my ankles. She kept talking. "Just let us in to use your phone." I took another step back, and with that step, the tone changed. At first, she seemed polite. When I took that second step back, she became commanding, almost hostile. "We're not going to hurt you. If we wanted to do that, we would have broken in. I'll ask again. May we come in and use your phone?" Lucy snarled at the door, and I inched backward, though something inside me seemed to be slowly pulling back toward the door. It wasn't a physical pulling so much as a subconscious need to go back and let them in. I got to my room, covered up the window, locked the door, and sat there in the dim light of the nightlight. I heard her call me back to the door once more, and then quiet. I didn't go back to sleep that night, and I haven't slept right since. I know from reading about them that black-eyed kids can't just come in without permission. I know they haven't hurt anyone, but I still fear I'll be the exception. When I told my husband, he said it was just a dream. He keeps telling me to forget about it. But this lingering feeling of sadness, this dread when the house is silent at night, this fear of a knock at the door, this tells me otherwise. I don't know. Have you guys heard that one before? You check the chat here. Oh, Autumn made it. Hello. Schmeister, gotta watch out with Italy. Get on the wrong side, and it's like the wrong side of Vegas, but worse. Oh, wow. Got a small window to listen to you until I get to Howell. Oh, sweet. Damn Gypsy says, I used to be the overnight janitor here, and the story I told you about always seeing the old man in the cafeteria who's dead. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's all good. Squirrel. Sweet. Finished taking football. Finished taking on that job with Harry Moore coming up. Oh, no. That's why being an adult sucks. My back always hurts from playing football when I was younger. You're not adulting today? Hi, Jen. Jen. I'm so glad you came. I'm glad everyone else is here, but Jen hasn't been in a live stream in a while, I don't think. I don't think it's been a while because she's busy working. So we're reading about black-eyed kids, just in case you didn't know that. We read story 1, which I think I've heard or read before, but it's still scary. It's still scary, like, and I'm the one reading it. I can't show you the photo, but this one says black-eyed kids. This is just like an extra part in this chunk of stories. And it says black-eyed kids are almost always described in the same way. Children between the age of 6 and 16, pale skin, completely black eyes, and out-of-date or strange clothing. While their black eyes make them look strange, what generally frightens people isn't their appearance, but the sudden presence of an overwhelming feeling of terror that accompanies the children. Yeah, that's what I've heard too. And again, when I find the guy's channel that, like, that's all he does, I'm gonna share it because I know I subscribe to him, but I just cannot remember the name of it. If one of you guys remember, let me know and I'll share the link, or you guys can. This is number 2, and it's called Bus Encounter. Oh, I need a little sippy. Sorry, that was probably right in your ear. Bus encounter. I was riding the bus back home after work. It was about 1 a.m. I'm a security guard and often work odd hours. So I'm sitting there. This guy gets on, sits across from me. He was wearing a suit, had a briefcase, regular looking guy in his 20s. What struck me about him at first was the fact that he was chewing a cigar, not smoking it. You can't smoke on the bus. So I was just looking at him while he stared out the window and chewed his cigar. And all of a sudden, he just turned and looked at me. His eyes were pitch black, just as described. My heart started beating like a mad motherfucker. I felt my gorge rising. I don't know what the hell that means. That's what it's written as. Anyway, I was starting to panic, and I had no idea why. I was just pants shittingly terrified of this guy. Then he grinned at me, and his teeth were all covered in tobacco bits and brown juice. The cigar clamped between them. I almost screamed, but instead I had the presence of mind to just get up and take the seat right behind the driver. I calmed down a bit after that, but I kept an eye on the guy. He ended up chatting with some girl that got on, and they were still talking when I got off. I later convinced myself that he was just trolling me, having fun with bare contacts. But now I wonder. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like a guy that was just wanted to screw with people and prank them. I don't know. I'll let you guys decide that because it sounds hilarious, actually. Check the chat. And after this, there's like 10. After that second story, there's like a list of 10 facts about black-eyed kids. I was once a black-eyed kid after my younger sister punched me in the eye, and she was 41. She was 4 and I was 15. I thought that said I was 41 and she was 15. Or she was 41 and you were 15. I don't know. I read that totally wrong. Oh my gosh. All right, let's go back to the stories here. So this is supposed to be 10 facts about black-eyed kids. Black-eyed kids will look like normal human children between the ages of 6 and 16, but with pale skin and completely black eyes. Additionally, people who have been in close proximity to black-eyed kids report a feeling of unease, excuse me, that washed over them. While nothing about the children's appearance, aside from the eyes, genuinely frightened people, they still reported feeling ranging from anxiety to terror in their presence. Some people have also reported seeing black-eyed kids that have talons for feet or other demonic attributes, but most sightings are seemingly of normal children. Black-eyed kids are also commonly described as wearing dated clothing or dressing in a manner that is not typical of a normal child of their age. Black-eyed children always ask for something. It is always something that involves being in closed quarters with you. They'll ask you for a ride in your vehicle or to enter your home to use the phone. There are no reported stories of what happens when you let a black-eyed kid into your vehicle or home. All stories come from people whose eerie feelings made them flee from the children. The earliest sighting of a black-eyed kid was by journalist Brian Bethel in 1996. The story has been added to internet creepypasta lore, but to this day, Bethel insists the incident was real and happened the way he reported it. In 2014, a British paper reported the sightings of black-eyed kids around the world were rising. Theories about the black-eyed kids are that they are vampires, aliens, or of demonic origin. Those were your 10 quick facts. I felt like da-da-da-da should be like game show music on, just to make it a little more unsettling. All right, this is number 3, titled Halloween. So I'm really hoping that it's not anything that you guys have heard. Let's see here. Human children, what other kind is there? I don't know, alien kids, maybe. They're saying that they don't look like they're anything out of the ordinary when they say human children. They just look like kids until you get close to them and you feel creeped out by them. But, all right, back to the story. This one's titled Halloween. So, again, I don't know if I've read these. I don't know if I've heard these, and I don't know if you guys have heard them, but we're reading them anyway, so. I'm just going to read it as it's typed because it looks like they're just talking to someone and they're answering questions. So this person says, "This is so funny. I've never heard of black-eyed kids before my incident, so I come on here to post my story. And the first story I see is about a black-eyed kid. Let me preface this by saying I'm by no means a writer. I'm just a domestic engineer." Yeah, this sounds familiar, but I'm just going to keep going. "Living in North Texas. Also, I don't believe in the paranormal, ghosts, demons, aliens, whatever. However, I did have an event happen to me this Halloween. I have to admit, that has me scratching my head." This is my first post on Reddit. So I didn't get these stories from Reddit. This other person must have, and then they posted them in their own article, and then I went to the article, and here we are. Anyway, sorry to say I'd never heard about them until yesterday. I told my best friend about my incident, and she's an avid reader of No Sleep, and she told me if I didn't post it, she would, so here I am. Anyway, I hope you like it. So it had been a slow trick-or-treat night in our neighborhood that evening, which is pretty odd in itself. We usually have kids from different areas dropped off in ours and have a constant parade at our door. That night, I'd say we had no more than 8 or 10 groups of kids come by the entire night. It was now 9:30 p.m., and my husband and I were sitting in our family room watching some ghost shows based on supposedly actual events. Like I said, I don't believe in that stuff, but I do like a good ghost story now and then, and it was Halloween and all. We hadn't had any activity at the door in over half an hour, and it was getting late, so we decided to turn the porch light off and let our dog Chloe out of her crate. Yeah, this sounds really familiar now. Anyway, Chloe is an American bulldog and is very docile. We only put her in her crate because we were afraid she'd try and get out to play with all the kids and didn't want to have to chase her down the street. Also, we didn't want her to scare any of the kids because she would look a little intimidating to the younger kids. So I turned the outside light off to let Chloe out, and she followed me back to the couch and laid down at my feet. It was getting close to 10 p.m. when my husband decided he'd had enough fun for the night and was going to go upstairs, take a shower, and get ready for bed. After all, it was Thursday, and he still had to get up early the next day. My teenage son was out with his friends at a local haunted house and wasn't expected back for another half hour or so. That left me alone on the couch with Chloe. Now, just because I don't believe doesn't mean that those shows don't freak me out a little bit. And being alone now watching, I'd have to say I was kind of on edge, as it were. It wasn't long after I heard the upstairs water for the shower turn on. There came a light knock, knock, knock at the front door. My initial reaction was, what the hell? It's almost 10 o'clock, go home. But soon an uneasy feeling came over me. Why the knock? Our doorbell glows in the dark, and without the porch light, it would be extra obvious to anyone there. I paused. I couldn't really just ignore it. Our front door has a big beveled glass panel, and anybody right at the door could see in enough to see that someone was in the family room watching TV. It would be pretty rude for me to just sit there and not answer it. And then knock, knock, knock. Again from the front door. I glanced down at Chloe, and she was gone. My gaze followed her usual path to the front door, expecting her to be on her way there as she normally does. She wasn't. I stood up to look around the room for her and found her crouching by the back door like she was wanting out. However, she never asks to go out like that. She always comes and licks my hand or puts her head on my knee. This was totally out of character for her, and I have to say it heightened my anxiety. Chloe, crate, I said. She just turned back to look at me like, hell no, lady, I'm not moving. I yelled out to my husband, but if he was already in the shower, I knew there was no chance of him hearing me. Knock, knock, knock. About that time, a car drove down our street and cast just enough light on the door to where I could see the silhouettes of two small children through the glass. I instantly felt relief. Oh, it was just some kids. Probably a couple of neighbors on their way back home and wanted to stop by and show me their costume or something. So I headed to the door and looked back to make sure Chloe wasn't going to follow. What a great watchdog, I thought to myself as she just sat there. I turned on the porch light, and when I got to the door, sure enough, I could see through the glass. It was a couple of pretty small kids. A little late for such young ones, I thought, and began to wonder what kind of parents would just let their kids run the streets that late at night. I only opened the door enough to where I could block Chloe's escape if she tried to grow some balls, which was now only about 2 feet. What struck me immediately as odd was the kids weren't wearing any costumes. They were in normal street clothes. Also, no customary trick-or-treat either. I began to feel very uneasy. It was a girl and a boy. The girl to my left was older, I'd say about 11 or 12. I couldn't tell. She was blonde, but I couldn't make out any distinct... Oh, I could tell she was blonde, but I couldn't make out any distinct features as our lights are from high above and on the columns in the front of the porch, so most of the light was coming from behind them. I had not opened the door wide enough for any light from the inside to hit them directly. The boy was younger and about a foot shorter. I'd say about 8 or 9, and looked to have light brown hair. The girl very politely said, "Ma'am, can we please come inside and use your phone to call our mom?" As she spoke, something in the pit of my stomach was telling me something was wrong. What kid, even at that age, doesn't have a cell phone of their own these days? I couldn't remember the last time I had anybody ask to use my home phone. Hon, don't you have a phone of your own you can call your mom on?" I asked. This was when things got really weird. Both kids turned to look at one another, like they were going to say something to one another, but neither spoke. They both turned back to me, and the girl said, "Ma'am, my cell phone battery doesn't have any charge left in it. Can we please come inside and call our mother? We're alone out here, and my brother is scared." Now I have to admit there's 2 competing feelings going on inside me. The first, that of a mother's heart that wanted to help these 2 small children get to their mom. The other, a sinking fear in my gut that was keeping the other feeling at bay. It was then that I noticed that during a short conversation, I'd already opened the door a few extra inches, which I was completely unaware of doing. And I stopped. Honey, why don't you give me your mother's number and I can call her myself? Another pause, and they again looked at one another. After a short moment, they turned back to me, and the girl said, Ma'am, my little brother has to use your bathroom. Can we please come inside while you call our mom? And with that last statement, the girl moved a little closer toward the door like she was just going to walk in on by me. As she did, she stepped into the light coming from inside my house, and I got my first real good look at her. Solid jet black eyes. That's all I could see. That motherly instinct was gone and replaced by terror I don't think I've ever felt in my life. I could feel every hair on my arms and the back of my neck standing at attention. I closed the door to where just my face was able to stick out. The little girl stopped and again said, Please, ma'am, we're really scared and alone out here. We have to come inside. Please help us. Then, like on cue, both kids began to whimper and cry. That's when the fear took over and I shut and locked the door. I'll call your mom if you give me the number, I shouted through the door, but I'm not letting you in my house. I could still see them there on the porch, just staring at me through the beveled glass pane. Part of me wanted to run upstairs to my husband, but the bigger part didn't want to lose track of where they were. That would have freaked me out even more not to know where they were. After what seemed like forever, but probably only a few seconds, I decided I'd call my neighbor that lives across the street. As I made my way to the side table by our couch to my phone, I glanced back at the door. Chloe was nowhere to be found. We later found her in a guest room under the bed. But when I got to my phone and started to look for this contact info, the neighbor's contact info, it was only then the kids stepped away from the door and began to walk into the street. And as they did, I walked to the door to get a better look to see where they went, still not calling my neighbor. If you get close enough to the glass, you can see out enough to make out people's shapes, but you can't see much detail. Of course, standing that close to the door would make you pretty obvious to anyone outside looking in. From the door, I could see that the kids were still standing under the street lamp nearest my house, staring at me. As I lifted the phone to my ear after calling, only then did the kids start walking down our street. I met our neighbor out under the lamp once he was out there, but the kids were nowhere to be seen. Like I said, I don't believe in any of this stuff, and I'd never even heard about black-eyed kids before talking to my friend. What I really think, what I have to think, is these kids were just out yanking people's chains on Halloween night. But I will say this for them, they were really good. Really, really good at it, because they scared the shit out of me and my dog. Yikes. Ooh. Oh, that's pretty nice. Bye, honey. I have to go to work in the plumbing sector. They expect results. Very funny, very funny. All right. Are you guys looking forward to any upcoming movies? Definitely yes. Am I still alive? Okay, good. Yeah, we're actually going to go to see The Nun Sunday evening. I'm really excited about it. Really excited about it. So that'll be my next movie review. So I'll probably have spoilers in it. Try not to spoil it. I did a movie review yesterday, and after doing it, I immediately found like 14 things that I didn't like about the way that I did it, which happens every time I try something new. I'm like, I don't either like the way I said something or the way that the video turned out. So I'm gonna try again and be better each time I try. The Toy Box Killer movie. The Toy Box Killer movie? Is that really something new that's coming out? I'll come back. I'm going to continue on with the Black Eyed Kids. So a bonus after this. What was number 3 here? Let me just make sure I highlight them so I know which ones I've read and I know where I'm at. So these are all numbered, so I really, really appreciate that. So I know where I'm at, and so do you guys. So we read number 3, and here's a little bonus before number 4. Someone says, when the black-eyed kids show up, years ago I heard these creepy stories about kids with black eyes who would try to get into your car home, commonly referred to as black-eyed kids. This paranormal phenomena is usually told from the perspective of someone who has escaped an encounter with one of them. No one really knows what happens when you acquiesce and let them into your home. Well, the person in this, it says the person in this text chain might. Okay, so there was this video text chat thing on the page, which I thought was just an ad. So this one is about a half a page long, so it's not as long as number 4. On March 17th, 2008, I had my one and only encounter with a black-eyed kid. Before my experience, I had never heard of anything to do with black-eyed kids. I was 12. I was sitting outside of a hairdresser's in an old Chevy pickup waiting for my mom to get her hair cut. About 15 minutes had passed, and I saw some kid walking back and forth along the sidewalk in front of my parked car. At first, I thought I recognized him as one of my friends from school, so I banged on the front windshield until he looked my way. It wasn't anyone I knew. At this point, I wasn't scared at all. Not yet. The boy walked over to the side of my car and just stares at me. I think to let me get a good look at his eyes to freak me out. Let me tell you, if you've never seen a black-eyed kid, you have no idea what to imagine. Pupils black as the night sky. The boy whispers, "You must let me in." That's when I locked the car doors and ducked down into the space below the seats. 5 minutes later, he was gone. When my mother got into the car, she told me a boy with black eyes had came into the hairdresser's and had insisted for my mother to give him the keys to the car. She refused. Thank God she did. Whoa, I've never heard of that one. That's pretty ballsy. Give me the keys to your car. Then there's another one before 5, and I'll check the chat really quickly. There's someone asked the question, are black-eyed kids real? And that's before number 5, so I'm really digging this thing that I found. Ooh, a new story. Dun, dun, dun. Jen has a blog, too, by the way, where she writes just tons of stuff there. That's where Soul Taker came, which really the original story is called Taking Back What You've Stolen. I think that's right. But I really loved that. I loved it, loved it, loved it. I love when I hear a story back that I did and it scares me. Like it's funny because when I record those, I kind of feel like outside of myself because it's not my writing. It's not my story. I'm just trying to tell it. So it kind of takes over and it's really fun. But apparently these black-eyed kids have been taking inspiration from The Hood. Have you ever seen, there's totally contacts that cover your whole eye. They look horribly uncomfortable. Like, I don't know how you would get those in to your eye and just walk around. If you can, that would be hilarious. Toy Box Killer. Also, it's going to be a Netflix original, and you hated the movie Veronica. I think it could have been better. I think there was so much potential for the movie Veronica to be better. I think the fact that it's got the jump scares and the silence, plus you have to keep your eyes peeled to the screen if you don't know Spanish for the subtitles. That's one of the reasons I think it makes it scarier. That's what I think makes the movie scarier is you have to keep your eyes on the screen. You know, there's boring parts, but you're just waiting for something. You can't take your eyes off or you're going to lose yourself and not know what's going on in the movie. So feel so empty after being let down by Jurassic Park. Jurassic World sucked then, did it? That's a bummer. Back to the stories. I'll be back to check that in a second. So, are black-eyed kids real? There's good reason to suspect black-eyed children are a real phenomena. The original sighting in 1996 was by a newspaper reporter whose interest in telling the story of what he experienced was more out of curiosity than fame-seeking. To this day, He maintains that the story happened the way he originally told it. There are also many, many independent eyewitness accounts spread out through multiple countries who have described similar experiences. They corroborate each other with the same MO the children have: pale appearance, with all black eyes, appearing in twos or threes, clothing style out of date. See, that one story only had one kid. Two of them only had one person. Anyway, needing to gain access to the witness's vehicle or home, and the guy in the bus, he didn't ask him to come in anywhere, so it definitely was a troll. Or Man in Black. Anyway, it's also important to keep in mind that the black-eyed kid story isn't that phenomenal. If someone were making up a story, they might have to try harder to make it more interesting or fantastical. The situations described seem creepy, but not like the plot of a horror movie. Just an everyday situation with some kids in it that seems strange. Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's a normal setting that has gone horribly wrong. That's what makes it scary. Something that could happen to anyone, anywhere, and just boom, creepy kid right in your face. Oh yeah, Pan's Labyrinth was horribly. It was scary and tragic. Yeah, yeah, Pan's Labyrinth. I highly recommend that movie. That was such a good, dark, crazy movie. I loved it. There's a lot of it won many awards too when it came out. It won award after award after award. So if you haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, I think it was on Netflix. I'm not sure if it is now. But if you get an opportunity to see it, it's so good. Jen, it's another demon thing, but I have some interesting things to get out of my head. Ooh, dun dun dun. Can't wait to see it, read it, etc. All right, we are moving on to number 5. This is titled They Just Stared. So this one time, early 2010, I was walking home from work and found myself escorting a young lady to her car. She asked me to escort her, and hoping I'd talk her into a drink or two. I already had a few myself. I'd get a number or possibly get laid that night. I'm not going to lie, she was kind of hot. No shit, though, she looked scared. So I kept walking with her. Was trying to at least coax out of her what she was so worried about. She would only comment about some really creepy-looking kids who were following her. Being that we were in downtown Seattle, this could amount to anything. So we kept walking and talking, and I kept looking behind us to see if the little fuckers were in tow. Nothing popped out of the ordinary. Then she grabs my arm really hard and whispered, "That's them." They were about a half a block in front of us, just standing there looking at her. So I do the prudent thing to do, which was cross the street, make sure I lock eyes with the big one, and keep in mind, once I get the lady to her car, that I give them an earful about being a couple little shits for scaring a lone woman in the metropolitan area. I didn't get scared or anything, but did notice something strange. They didn't break eye contact with me. Mind you, I don't look like the kind of guy you want to fuck with. Honestly, it's an unconscious front since I'm a bit shy. My look reminds people of a skinhead or a club bouncer. The black tanker boots and Van Dyke mixed with the above don't make me look like a people person either. People break eye contact with me constantly. These two kids didn't. That was a red flag for me. I finally got this woman to her car. She says thanks. I make sure to tell her where the local police station is at, which was about 5 blocks from where we were. And that's where the story ends. Wow, that could have been so much more interesting. I feel like there was a lot of buildup for a huge letdown. Ugh. Wow. Boo. That one sucked. But the other ones have been, yeah, I knew that's what you meant, Jen. I have a lot of shave, but I shave some interesting things out of my head. Which still, that could be like the first sentence to a story. Shaving your head and things fall out, like ideas. Someone goes too far. I don't know. I'm going down a weird trail. Let's go back to the stories. Anyway, my dog keeps moving around in the room. This is number 6, and it's called Trick or Treat. All right. I don't know if anyone's heard it. I don't know if I've read it, so we're just going to go on. This really freaked me out. Yesterday, I noticed my neighbor hadn't put out all his Halloween decorations, lights, etc. The past 2 years I've lived next to him, he's gone all out for Halloween. I don't know him well. He's younger, single, but I know he likes kids, not in a creepy way. His brother and sister-in-law and their kids are always visiting him, and he plays with the 3 young nieces and nephews out in the yard. So anyway, I got home from work and was walking up my driveway and I saw him outside and said something like, "Hey man, you better get your Halloween stuff out or that house across the street is going to beat you for best decorations." And he kind of smiles sheepishly, if you could understand that word, sheepishly. Oh no, I'm not going to repeat it because I'm just going to keep messing it up. Anyway, and he says he's actually going to keep his house dark this year and just put candy out. I asked if he was going out of town and he said no. Something happened last year that really scared him. I think I've heard this before, but I'm going to keep going. Now I was concerned for my own safety if some weirdos were coming around our neighborhood, which is a pretty safe neighborhood with tons of young families living here. So I asked him what happened. He goes on to say that last year he had his brother's family over so they could trick-or-treat in the neighborhood, since they live in an apartment complex that doesn't do much for Halloween. He had a bunch of kids come to the door like always. His family took off around 10:30, and there were only a few older trick-or-treaters. But by 11:30, they were pretty much done. So he was inside, watching TV, and the doorbell rings. He grabs the candy bowl and heads over, noticing that it's a little past midnight, and that's pretty rude for trick-or-treaters to still be out. But then notices he hasn't turned off all his decoration lights yet, so his house is still a beacon. He swings the front door open and is about to yell boo or something to freak them out, but stops dead when he sees the kids at the door. He said one was probably around 13 or 14, the other was about 16 or 17, both boys. They weren't dressed up, but he remembers the older one was wearing a flannel checkered shirt. He was immediately overcome with uneasiness, like opening the door was a huge mistake. They just stared at him, and he noticed that they had really big irises and dilated pupils. He couldn't even see the whites of their eyes, so he figured they were contact lenses. He was frozen, there holding the candy bowl, like he couldn't slam the door on their face as much as he wanted to. So he nervously tried to smile at them, hoping they would break character and ask for candy or something. The younger one said they had gotten lost and needed to come in and use his phone. That was when he closed the door more than halfway on them and said, "Nope, sorry." The older one said something like, "Can we just wait in your house until our parents come get us?" But by then he was convinced that his life was in danger and these kids must be high on something or intending to rob him, and he was just mumbling, "No, sorry, good night," as he inched the door closed and locked it. He told me he was so fucking scared at that point that they were going to try and break in through one of his windows or something. But he looked through the people, and they had turned to leave. He watched TV with the volume really low so he could hear any sounds at all. He said he stayed up until 5 a.m. because he was too scared to go to bed and drop his guard. The whole time he's telling me this, I'm thinking, oh my God, this sounds so familiar, just like Black Eyed Kids' urban legend. Then I thought, hey, maybe this dude's trying to scare me. After all, he does have the Halloween spirit. So I'm looking at him incredulously, trying not to seem too gullible. So I'm like, man, that's really crazy. Sounds like the Black Eyed Kids. He just looks at me blankly. The what? Is that a movie or something? I said no, but I go to tell him, look it up online. An hour later, I get a knock on my door, and immediately almost jumped out of my skin thinking it's a demon child. It was my neighbor, and his eyes were huge. He swears to me up and down he had never heard of the Black Eyed Kids before, and it's so similar to what happened to him. So we talked a while longer, and I told him that quite a few people probably know about that urban legend and it's possible it was just teenagers with black sclera contacts trying to freak people out on Halloween, which would be genius, by the way. But he said the fear he felt was so primal and came over him the second he opened the door for them. Yeah, I've heard that one before. Have you guys heard that one before? I feel like I might have read that one before for you guys. I don't know. They're still really good, though. If I have read them, that's been a long time. Oh, damn, Gypsy. All kids creep me out. I'm glad that one sucked. I was away from the stream for a second. To be fair, what is the traditional time for trick-or-treat, like, historically? Well, like, in our state and local Tri-Cities, You can't trick-or-treat till 4, and then you have to stop at 8. Because they did have kids going, like, knocking on people's door in, like, 11 o'clock, midnight. So they set, like, a curfew for Halloween, and that also controls, like, so they know when kids are out when they shouldn't be type of thing. Plus, there's a curfew anyway. Like, if you're under 16, you're not allowed to be out, like, walking the streets past 10 p.m., which sucks because I'm sure there's probably a kid that has to walk to or from work. So, but I'm sure that would be explainable enough. But when my daughter was really little, there's like stores all over town that participate in this trick-or-treat thing that you can do. So if your kids are really, really little and basically too little to take trick-or-treating, you can take them to these stores, and it's usually like a chain of stores that do it. You just take them in there and get them candy, and then don't have to deal with the nighttime stuff when, you know, a 2-year-old's going to trip downstairs anyway. Let's see. I don't like black-eyed kid stories. I just can't believe it seems like a little jerk-off kids. Ooh, you know who's going to knock on your door now, damn gypsy? Black-eyed kids. Yep, heard almost all of them. In Virginia, it's 6 to 10. That's 4 hours. Yeah, that's a big window because, I mean, it gets dark on Halloween. It gets dark pretty early. So, like, 4 p.m., these kids are, like, out and about. Yay, lunchtime. Back to the stories. Hopefully they don't suck. Says a Halloween warning. So every story I've read about them is from someone who already knew about them. Last night was like any other night. I was switching between listening to music and watching YouTube videos with one headphone in so I could hear my infant daughter if she cried. That way my wife could get a full night's sleep. She works at 4 a.m. at the hospital every day. When I decided to go lay down on the spare bed in the baby's room, just as I dozed off, I heard a thumping coming from the front porch. Startled at first, I opened my eyes wide and scanned the room. Realizing it was most likely my cat scratching himself on the front porch, I dozed back off. Then again, the thumping. Goddamn cat. I got out of bed and run him off the porch, only to see that he wasn't there anymore. And now that I was up again, I wasn't the least bit tired. I figured I'll just get some tea and check Facebook while I'm up, maybe finish the web series I was watching on YouTube. A few minutes into the video, I felt the sudden urge to go look at the kitchen window. There they were. The tops of 2 short-statured people's heads cresting the stairs just above my window frame. The people were short enough to not see in the window, but I could see out. I heard no footsteps on my porch as my stomach turned, but the knock-knock was a steady, hollow thump. The very same thump I had blamed on the cat. Deciding it was best not to answer, I shut my laptop, crept by the door back to the baby's room. I assumed it was some of the people from the low-income housing across the road from me that were high or hiding from the cops or maybe looking for my cousin who stays with me and has many friends over there. Last thing I needed was to try and explain to 2 stoners that I was trying to sleep even though it's 2 a.m. It wasn't until I got to my daughter's room that the creepiness set in. The thump had moved from the kitchen to the bedroom windows. Both windows. A room apart, thumping in perfect time. These stoners weren't going to wake up my daughter if I didn't run them off now. Oh, they were going to wake her up. Oh my God. Pissed off, I went into the kitchen, unlocked and opened the door, ready to run around to the side of the house and kick some little idiot's ass. It happened then. Standing there, looking up at me, were 2 10 or 11-year-old boys. The feeling of dread and the smell of mold almost made me vomit. The smaller of the 2 then spoke. "May we use your telegraph?" Huh? I just stared blankly at these boys, horrified of what I then realized. Their eyes were pitch black. And he asked again to use my telegraph. There wasn't a sound to be heard. No crickets chirping, no dogs barking, no cars driving by, nothing. I tried to play it cool and ignore the fact that he didn't say telephone or phone or cell or anything that would have made sense of the situation, and I calmly replied, "I don't have service at my house, sorry." The expressions on their faces turned to rage as I finished my sentence. Swiftly, I shut the door and locked it as quickly as I could, then stumbled back to protect my daughter. I picked her up from her crib and held her close. The fact that she didn't wake up freaked me out the most, but I managed to gather my senses enough to make sure she was still breathing and warm. Everything seemed okay with her. The thumping on the windows was back. I dropped to the floor as close to the wall as I could and held my daughter in my arms and wept like a child. I felt helpless and afraid. I lied there for what felt like hours and hours, crying and shaking until I heard it. My wife's alarm clock. The thumping stopped the instant the alarm went off, and I crept into the master bedroom with the baby. "What's wrong with you?" my wife asked. "I just had a bad dream," is all I could mutter out. "Okay, well, give me the baby so I can feed her before work." I handed my wife the baby, and she fed her like any normal day. I turned on every light in the house and made coffee for her. For some reason, just having her awake calmed my nerves enough to pretend like nothing happened. I walked her out to the car nervously with my baby in my arms. I asked her not to leave until I walked back in the house. She was a little bit put off by the request, but did so to humor me. Once I was safely in the house, I locked the door again. And in the house, I sat horrified until she got home. I insisted we go to the next town over and stay the weekend at my brother's house. And here I sit horrified while she sleeps in the guest room with my daughter, wondering why they stopped when the alarm went off. And I think I know the answer. I was aware of the black-eyed kids, and she wasn't. And every story I've read about them is from someone who already knew about them. Maybe the knowledge of them existing is the only way they visit. And I'm afraid. And I'm sorry. Okay, so maybe that was a fake one. I don't know. I don't trust. That's why I never go and read stories from No Sleep, because I can't tell if they're real. I don't trust that they're real ever. Dang it. I think it's funny to see a little kid mad. Bye, Jen. Bye. Do most people even know what a telegraph is anymore? Yeah, exactly. Like, I thought it was a typo, but... So maybe the guy wasn't, like, being dishonest or anything. All right, so... Number 8. No, you won't be calling anybody, it says. The incident took place about 13 years ago. I had just moved to a new city with my wife. We were small-town newlyweds from the Midwest. We moved across country to one of the biggest cities in the Southwest so I could attend graduate school. Being naive and new to city living, I habitually answered the door without a second thought. Never again after this. The first thing that should have tipped me off about the peculiarity, I almost couldn't say that word, of this situation was the fact that someone was knocking at 6 o'clock in the morning. The second thing that should have dawned on me is that this kid had to reach over a rather tall patio gate to unlatch and open it. The knock at the door was startling. My wife and I were getting ready for work, a pretty normal routine. The moment I opened the door, I was overtaken with an inexplicable sense of fear. To this day, I can picture him. Teenager, average height, average build, knee-length black leather coat, short black hair, and sunglasses. The sunglasses at 6 a.m. struck me as odd, and even more odd, he was eating an apple. He was very polite and asked if we could come in and warm up, and I said no, closed the door, and slid the security chain into place. A moment later, another knock. I opened the now chained door, and before I could speak, he again asked if we could come in and warm up, and I said no. I replied and attempted to close the door again. Before the door could shut, he put his hand out, stopping the door on its hinges. He looked directly into my eyes, still wearing his sunglasses, and said, "Can I at least get some ketchup for my apple?" "Fuck that," I reply, albeit a little confused. "Get the hell out of here. My wife is calling the police." He takes a moment to let this information sink in, lowers his glasses, revealing his eyes as black as obsidian, and says, "No, you won't be calling anybody." At that moment, I force the door closed, lock it, and call it to my wife. She's scared shitless, hiding in the bedroom. All jacked up on adrenaline, I rip the curtains back to look out the window. Next to the door, he's gone. Absolutely no trace of him. I go out on the patio and check the gate. It's still latched from the inside. That was fucked up, I think to myself, and turn to enter the house and notice a half-eaten apple lying on the ground. Holy shit, I've never heard that one before. Have you guys? I'll check the chat in a second. Make sure I highlight this so I don't reread it. Holy crap. That's freaking scary. Ketchup for your apple? Like, I am totally in, like, I get it. People eat weird stuff. I eat weird stuff too, but ketchup on an apple, that's a weird one. All right. This one is titled, I was having a visceral experience all over my body. I'd be lying if I told you I didn't know about black-eyed kids before this happened to me late summer last year. I definitely did. Now, in the moment, that idea never crossed my mind. But afterward, hell yes. And the thought led to all kinds of regret I realize is stupid, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about my neighborhood. I live in a poor part of town, a bit ghetto, a bit off the barrier, a bit of the barrio. Jeez. A bit of the lower economic class of cross-section of races. It's LA. The apartment complex spans a short block. It's dusty brown like the desert we live in. It's got 2 pools, lots of little Hispanic children, and for the most part, a pretty friendly population. I am a destitute writer trying to make it in Hollywood, so I spend my free time writing. When this happened, I was working mostly in the mornings and afternoons. I would get home, hit the gym, and then settle in for an evening in front of the computer. It's pretty common for the evenings in the summer to be chaotic around our apartment complex. Kids playing in the pool, the ice cream man pushing his cart up and down the sidewalk, women talking outside the laundry room. Hey, I do my own laundry, but I'm pretty much the only guy I see here doing it, you know. Nice, low income, but pleasant. Like a mixed race. Okay, you can tell he's a writer because he's over explaining everything. Not that you do that, Jen. Just saying, most people do. People will knock on your door, sometimes to borrow something. I cook so neighbors will pop by to find out the origins of great aromas wafting from my kitchen window. Oh my God, get to the point. Okay. So because it's hot out, I leave my windows open. AC isn't cheap and I've got no money, remember? Hoping for the cross breeze. That means I can't see anyone from where I sit and work. I can hear them clearly as they walk up to my door. That's when I hear someone knock. Oh no, when I hear someone knock, I answer. Besides buying the occasional candy bar, I smile, politely decline, wish them a nice day, and send them off. No big deal. That evening, it was quiet, which was strange in and of itself. I should at least have been able to hear the distant round of ranchero music. I heard a couple of people walk up to my door. I'm not the first in the apartment in my courtyard, so I usually hear the salespeople as they knock on my neighbor's door and then work their way around to me. Not this time. Whoever it was walked right up to my door and knocked. I got up to answer it, reaching for the door handle when a chill went through my body like I've never experienced. A cold tightness in my chest. I halted my hand movement toward the door handle and placed it flat on the door as if it was feeling for heat from a fire. I have a peephole in my door, but it never crossed my mind to use it. I stood there with my hand flat on the door and listened. They knocked again. I don't scare easy, and I wasn't exactly afraid, but I was having a visceral experience all over my body. A base fear reaction. Just like I could hear them, they had heard me move to the door. They knew I was inside. Yes, I said. Who is it? A boy's voice answered. We need to use your phone. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I start laughing. I stress laugh when I'm in pain or under pressure. They heard me laughing, and neither of us moved for about a minute or two. A really, really long minute or two. Finally, they walked away. Not to any of the other 8 doorways within the 15 feet. Not to ask anyone else. Before they could have gone more than a dozen yards, curiosity reasserted itself, and I yanked the door open, running after them to see who it was, and where they were headed. The courtyard of my complex was completely empty. Afterwards, I thought the experience with the stories about black-eyed kids, and I kicked myself for not opening the door, coming face to face with the black-eyed kids. How could that have been? How would that have been? But then I remember that feeling, my skin crawling, and the certain knowledge in me that at that moment, there was no way in hell I was opening the door at that time. Yeah. I mean, That story could have been a lot shorter because the guy was like trying to sell us on his writing abilities. He got a little carried away there. Goodness gracious. I like Doritos and PB&J. That's interesting. Oh, that's funny. I like how he builds a whole world to tell a single thing. I know. Shh. Damn gypsy. Yeah. She's trying to tell you something. Okay. I feel like you're going to get yourself in trouble there, but I'm not going to perpetuate that. Moving on. Let's see. This is just titled, this is number 10. He told me to never agree to help them. It was a cold October evening, not too far off from Halloween. And I remember sitting in my room playing the original Suikoden. I don't know what that means. You gamers probably do. The evening was slowly creeping by, so I decided to go to the corner store. It was only 3 blocks, shouldn't be much trouble, right? During my walk, I see the normal, the occasional person putting up Halloween decorations, kids playing in their yards. But this story is about something far more sinister. I remember seeing 2 teens about 14 knocking on a door asking to use the phone, which of course I thought was weird because most teens have a phone. As I kept walking, they stopped and stared at me for a short moment, and I felt the blood in my veins chill. I felt so creeped out, I hurried to the next block. The next block seemed fine until I looked behind me and saw the 2 teens were following me. I took off sprinting to the store at this point. I saw the sign for the store and relief washed over me. I opened the door and I told the cashier about what happened on the way here. He looked at me slightly creeped out and told me a story about this happening to him in his hometown and how they found him the day he left and asked for his help in an emotionless voice. And he told me to never agree to help. He told me another story, but at that point I was no longer paying attention because they were standing at the door asking to be let in. The cashier freaked out and locked the door. The teens never seemed to waver or leave. They wouldn't step away from the door. It had been an hour. The cashier and I were ready to fight our way out, but instead he took me out the back. The one teen came around the back just as the door shut behind us. "Can you help me?" is all he would say. He was closing in on us, and his eyes, they were black as starless night. They were peering right into my soul. I couldn't help but gaze into his eyes. The terror. I can't remember too much of what happened next, but I do recall the sounds of a struggle. When I came to, the cashier was struggling with both teens. He was calling out to me for help. I ran toward them, grabbed him by his collar, and pulled him in between the 2 and knocking them over in the process. I didn't look back until it was near my house. The cashier was gone, but the teens were still following me. I ran into my house, closed all the blinds, and turned up the music. I got lucky that day, but I'm not sure how long I can keep out of their grasp. I tried to find and thank the cashier for saving my life that day, but he didn't show up to work after that. I asked his boss, and he told me he called over the phone and quit. Said he was moving. To this very day, I sometimes feel the fear of those eyes watching me as I drive to work. I sometimes will look out my window and swear I see them watching my house from a couple blocks away, waiting for the next chance. Wait, if you had a car, why didn't you drive to the store? I call fake. Boo. Hey, when someone tries to pretend something's real. Fake no-sleep stories are like, I don't know, think of something that's supposed to be real. You pick up sliced cheese and realize it says cheese food and it's not actual cheese. That's what I feel about that. Not cool. The magic word. What is the magic word, Dr. Venkman? Now that I've heard all these stories, if I see any, I might let them in just to see what happens. Ooh, and then come back and tell us. They used your phone and then thanked you and then left. The end. Okay. back to the next one. Everyone, Harry is going to bait you so you could argue with him. That's what he likes to do. Anyway, this is like, I thought they were all longer. This is one of those super short ones. And it's just titled Survival Story. I helped them once. Never, ever, under any circumstance, do it. I'm not sure what they do, but it feels as if they're ripping your soul out. They get really close to you, and you get amazingly drowsy. And if it weren't for my girlfriend showing up mid-invasion and kicking them out, I probably would be dead. I didn't even see the black-eyed kids until I had let them in. They're getting smarter. Oh, pfft. Boo. Fake story, boo. Oh. I've been alerted to the fact that apparently there's, which is why I never get stories from Reddit. I've used stories from Reddit, but I've contacted the authors in advance and get their permission. That's how I met Evan the Nerd. Actually, that Evan the Nerd was from Twitter, so. But Nick Boddick and a few other people, Joe Fish, who's from, but I got their permissions to use their stories. But apparently, there are Reddit authors who use throwaway accounts, or don't, who apparently and supposedly giving people permission to narrate their stories. And then once the people do that, then they're giving them a copyright strike, which I don't even know how you do that. So I tend to stay away from Reddit as a whole just because they kind of seem to hate narrators on YouTube. But don't know any of their names, but if I do, I will plaster their name everywhere so no one use them, including their stories. Not going to have that. No way. So, we don't hear from evil, we know why. Yeah. I was actually asked if I was Jesus once by a crackhead and told him of course I was. Did you turn water into wine for him? Or just give him like $5 for a cheap bottle of wine? All right. So this one is titled Black-Eyed Grandparents. A bit of scene setting. So in 96, 97, I lived in a fairly old terraced house with a cemetery at the end of the road. Cliche, I know, but it's an important detail. Nothing remarkable about the house or the area. It was just convenient for college. Anyway, I was up one late on the PC in my bedroom, which looked out onto the street. It was about 2 or 3 a.m. And for whatever reason, probably to give my eyes a rest, I wandered over to the window and looked down the road and in the direction of the cemetery. Although it was too far down the street for me to see, I saw 3 people walking slowly down the road. I could see that they were quite old and appeared to be dressed in funeral clothes, which, given the hour, was weird. There were 2 women and a man. I'd put their ages at about 80, and the woman in the middle was being guided by the other woman, and the man, as they came closer, I got the impression she was just upset. My first thought was that given their age, she had recently buried her husband, and grief had caused her to behave slightly irrationally, causing her to try to be out near the cemetery at that hour, and that the other 2 were friends or relatives trying to look after her and get her home. Anyway, it was all interesting enough for me to carry on watching as I got closer to the house. Just outside the front of the house was a street lamp. I watched them as they made their way past, but when they got to the lamppost, they all stopped, and the upset woman in the middle looked up at me and grinned. This was when things got weird. The grin became a sort of grimace, and if there was any color on her face to start with, it was now dead white. At that point, I realized I was staring right into her eyes, but her eyes were pitch black. Time sort of dilated. If you've ever crashed a car, the final split second before you make impact seems to drag out as you process more information than normal. It was sort of like that. I'm sure we only made eye contact for a second, but it felt like several minutes as my peripheral vision faded, and I felt like all I could see were these 2 black holes in her face. Although the distance between us didn't seem to change, she somehow felt like she was coming closer, and I was kind of aware, although I couldn't honestly say I could see them at that point, the 2 people with her, just continuing to look down at the road as if frozen, but waiting for this woman to finish whatever she was doing. I was suddenly hit with this intense feeling of dread and panic, so I threw myself on the floor. As soon as I'd broken her gaze, I felt pretty stupid. that this upset old woman who clearly needed help had spooked me so badly. So I looked out the window again, and there was no sign of them. It was a longish, straight road, and the house was toward the middle, so Linford Christie would have trouble getting out of sight in time. I don't know what that means. I looked away, let alone 3. I don't understand the ending here, but I don't know. See, that kind of goes against that thing, too. I've never heard of a black-eyed, like, grandparent. Never heard of that one. Yeah. Never heard of that one. Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Oh, and it's only Thursday. How come there's not a Thursday song? There's a reason. Thursday's almost Friday. That's what's not today. That's quite dickish. What was quite dickish? Oh. Yeah. Were you already here, Biddy? Oh, that was Biznitch. You guys have like the same avatar looking thing. Haha. Harry Rod's gonna get down on Friday. All right, we're on number 13 and there's 16. This one's titled They're on My Balcony. A little about myself. I'm in my early 20s. Just moved into this apartment. I tend to live a very private life. I don't even have a Facebook account, which most people won't soon, but that's a totally separate story. Anyway, I work during the day at a grocery store. So I'm walking up my flight of steps to get to my apartment, and I hear these kids laughing. Then I heard whispering. It was kind of late, so I thought this was weird, but I ignored it and walked into my apartment. I live on the 3rd floor. I was getting ready to open my balcony door. It was really muggy in my apartment. I walk over to the door and pull my blinds, and 2 kids are fucking staring at me. Sorry for the F-bomb, but I'm still shaking. I scream, backed away, smashing my leg into the table. They were both in blue jeans, and the oldest, he was taller, had on a green shirt with white stripes, and the younger had on a button-up, like light blue shirt. The oldest one touched the sliding door. Hey, miss, can you let us in? The younger one just kept looking around. I still just stared at them. I was finally able to say, how'd you get on my balcony? I walked to the door and noticed how excited the older one was. The older one, he got closer to the entrance. Can you let us in? I wasn't even thinking. I unlocked the door, and when I looked up, their eyes were black. The entire eye. I quick locked the door and told them I had to call the police because my door was jammed and I couldn't unlock the door. So I called the police. The oldest boy pleaded with me the entire time to let them in. The police arrived about an hour ago. They came in and walked to the balcony. When they opened my balcony, the door was nothing there. There was nothing there. They looked down and saw 2 children were running in the parking lot away from the building. The police took a report and said they had had help getting up there. Oh, they had to have had help getting up there, and that they would question the neighbors. I'm freaking out. I'm crying. I don't want to stay here. But then again, I don't feel safe going outside right now. And that's how the story ends. Oh my God. And then nothing else ever happened. Okay. Boo. Boo. Yeah, dickish was yeah. That's why I said if I find out who they are, I will be sharing their name everywhere. But I tend to stay away from that anyway. When I early started, I would there's a free section on Reddit that you can use, like free to use. There's a whole category for that. But I mean, I don't know. Seems like YouTube kind of hates narrators in general. So that's why I wanted to branch out again also. But I also wanted to make other content besides just reading. And I know some of the advice is like get in front of the camera. So at some point you'll see my ugly mug more regularly. Ugh, dreads. Just fills me with dread. That scares me more than black-eyed children. Yeah, they just freaked out. Boo. Whoop-de-freaking-do. Spray them with something. Take a picture of them. No one takes a picture? Come on. Everyone has their cell phone on them, like you say. Take a picture. Anyway, number 14 is just titled Soon. I live in a big city in South BC. I'm going to say that's British Columbia, right? And it's 11:52 here as I type this. I had just got home from The Conjuring. Scary as shit, I'm telling you. I was looking on Reddit's Creepy and heard a knock on the door. I walked over confused because I live alone and I'm a recluse. As I approached the door, I felt pure terror. That feeling you get when you feel like death is imminent or you're facing your biggest fear. When I opened the door, I was shaking madly, staring into the face of a 6'3" teenage girl. She was still 4 inches shorter than me, but I felt like I was about to faint. She asked if she could enter the premises because her mom had left town and she lost her keys. She claimed she needed a couch to sleep on and was cold. I blinked and screamed bloody murder, slamming the door in her face. I ran to my room and grabbed my revolver. Yeah, illegal, I know, and sat in the recliner facing the door until I dozed off. When I woke up, I looked outside and she was gone. But the word soon was scratched weakly into the door. That's fucked up. I don't know. What do you guys think? Fake or real? I feel like 50-50. That's freaky. Scratched the word soon into someone's door? What a psychopath. I'm just curious if these kids target pedos as well. Wouldn't that be a dream come true? That problem could just take care of itself. Apparently, since no one's actually taking care of it. Did anybody read Squirrel Autumn? But did anybody hear or listen to Jared wants out of jail? Like, who fucking cares if he wants out of jail from Subway? Look, by the way, I haven't been able to eat at Subway since he got in trouble for the stuff that he did. If you guys don't know, I just can't do it. Hey, I've seen girls that are that tall. We grow them big in America. I think we're not the only country, though, that has some really tall girls. Girls taller than that, too, because we have the WNBA. Anyway, what was I talking about? Shoot. Squirrel. Oh, Jared wants out of jail. Anyway, I can't eat at Subway anymore. Moving on. Ugh. This one is called, this is number 15 of 16, and it's just titled, Don't Go Out at Night and Always Beware the Devils. I'm not going to be, you know what? I miss going for a walk at night. It's fucking awesome to go for a walk at night, but there's all these fucking crazy people everywhere and scary stories. Like, who feels safe enough to just go for a walk at night? What the hell? Anyway, reading the stories, I had always been a skeptic. Stories, alleged first-hand experiences, hauntings, possessions. They're all well and good for a quick chill, a cheap thrill, something I read to get my heart rate up. Getting scared can be fun sometimes, as long as you don't overdo it. Just a little something silly to get worked up. In my lurking in books and on numerous sites on the internet, credible or not, I've come across many a story or account about ghosts, demons, the Jersey Devil, you name it. Recently, I've found my way into stories about black-eyed kids. No, these children do not get a black eye from a fight. I don't believe there will be a soul out there with a backbone to try and attack these kids. And no, black-eyed kids are kids. If that was straightforward enough, usually from all the accounts I've read in their teenage years, if they even physically age at all. Their eyes are pitch black. No pupils, no corneas, no showing at all. Pitch black. They have olive skin and wear run-of-the-mill clothing as in hoodies. However, in a non-physical sense, they always bring with them an overwhelming sense of fear and dread. They're intriguing, and when approached by them again, by all accounts I've come across, it's like you're in a slight hypnosis, though you quickly snap out of it when your instincts take over, usually as you meet their eyes. Then there are the theories about what they might be. Theories range from lost souls to alien-human hybrids, and even vampires, though the latter might be an extreme stretch to the link of Blackhead Kid current social infatuation of vampires found commonly in young persons. In light of all this, I've always been a very fact-based person. If its existence was not apparent or the existence of the thing in question was not testable and verifiable to me, it did not exist. However, one long, terrifying night, which still haunts me to this day, showed me the proof required to open my eyes and mind. Oh God, please don't be fake. Anyway, so my story begins when I left my mom's house. I had gone over to visit my father. Her husband of 63 years recently passed away. Huh? So my story begins when I left my mom's house. I had gone over to visit because my father, my mother's husband of 63 years, recently passed away, and my mom wasn't taking it too well. I knew she needed support from her loved ones, and I was more than willing to go and visit and keep her company. But it was getting late. My mother lives in the suburbs. Tidy lawns, plenty of neighborhoods, paved roads, and even though it was near 11 p.m. when I left, the streets were extremely lit by the streetlights, who always had your safety and ease of mind at heart. These lights only lit the road, though, and glancing across the street, the houses were cast in an eerie shadow. Even a rather safe, charming little neighborhood can seem spooky and uninviting when cast in shadow. And I admit I was terribly chilled. Sliding into my car, I revved the engine and waved to my mother, who was standing in the doorway, wrapped comfortably in a warm shawl. She waved back, her old and fragile arm shaking. I saw her mouth, "Be careful," and I smiled, backing out of the driveway. I turned out of the neighborhood, deciding to take the back way, the shorter way home tonight. In hindsight, that might not have been a good idea. I live a significant ways away, out in the middle of the country in an old farmhouse that I grew up in, which my father had left in my name, which he and my mom had moved out into a place smaller, more easy to care for them and affordable, and social. My father had always told me growing up, don't go out at night and always beware the devils. He was a strong believer in anything and everything paranormal, very superstitious, and I always had to resist the urge to laugh at his words. But I knew he meant well. Driving down the dark country roads, there were no streetlights, and the half-assed paved road was cracked and filled with potholes. The fields on either side of the road were empty, just blank stretches of overgrown grass and untended shrubbery. The dark outline of the trees of the woods could be seen looming all the way across the field on the shadowy horizon. One might have even seen a deer or two once in a while in those fields, but not tonight. The moon offered a little light, as the sky rolled with dark, threatening clouds, ready to burst with rain or storm at any moment. Sure enough, a few moments later, the low grumble of thunder sounded, heavy and long. No rain fell yet, much to my pleasure. I hate driving at night and in the rain, and putting those two together would have ended badly. I just knew it. Accompanied by the occasional roll of thunder, I started to feel anxious. I can't explain it. I just felt shaken up, probably because it was night and it could start raining. Or maybe I had been reading too many ghost stories and legends, and tonight seemed to reflect the mood of the stories I had been most obsessively reading. Try to calm myself, flick on my car's radio, and turn on the old-fashioned knob back and forth, slowing down a bit as I attempted to find a station that came in. Nothing doing. Weird. There was a broadcasting tower right there. It usually came in perfectly clear as day. But still nothing. The white noise and static of the blank stations was doing nothing to appease my anxiety. I gripped the steering wheel tighter as more thunder boomed from the sky. Aggravated, I forcefully shut off the radio, gritting my teeth. Glancing down at the dashboard, I noticed I was nearly out of gas. Groaning, I searched the road for a sign for gas. And as I was scanning the side of the road, I noticed the corner of my eye two figures walking on the side of the road, shrouded in shadow. They were walking slowly. One turned around, walking backward, with his or her thumb sticking out. I felt compelled to pull over and give them a ride, and found my hands turning the wheel slightly, but I pulled back. realizing how stupid it would be of me to accept two random strangers into my car in the middle of the night on a backcountry road. I sped up and passed them, trying not to look at them as I did so. I felt oddly intrigued by them. As I focused on the road ahead, it started drizzling, dropping my mood another level or two, along with the rain. The thunder seemed louder, closer, as the storm moved in. A few seconds passed until I gave into my compulsion to look at the two figures, glanced in my rearview mirror, and it seemed as if the two were walking faster, and the one no longer had his thumb out. But it had to be my imagination. How would I be able to tell if they were walking faster or not? It was rainy and dark. Looking back at the road, I almost missed a sign and alerted me of a gas stop up ahead. A sigh of relief passed my lips and I slowed down, looking for any indication of the stop, pushing the thought of the two figures from my head. And soon I was pulling into the gas station slowly as the rain started to pick up. Jesus, get to the point, man. The store was closed, but luckily they had a 24-hour gas pump service. That was good for me. As if they had not, I'd run out a few more miles down the road. I shut off my car and hesitantly shoveled out. Okay, first of all, this story must be super old. Or two, this person is an idiot. No one is going to leave their mother's house almost out of gas on a route that they travel all the time, not have some sort of way to get fuel for themselves. I call fake. Moving on. Anyways, I would have run out of gas down the road, shut off my car, and hesitantly shoveled out the metal shell and glanced over my shoulder, still not able to shake that nervous feeling that had manifested inside me earlier that night. I stood under the light of the overhang, trying to figure out how to work the pump, which seemed so overcomplicated in the dim light, and with my mind not being able to focus on the simple task. The rain picked up more. Yeah. Heavier and louder against the concrete of the gas stop, as I finally was able to get the pump into my car, forcing my hand to stop its shaking. I had a horrible feeling that my shaking... I feel like I want to read this in a fake voice because it's starting to sound so fake. Okay, let me just skim through here. Suddenly, the overhang lights of the gas stop started flickering wildly, a couple going out altogether. It seemed as if the temperature dropped 20 degrees in a few seconds. As I glanced around, a sinking feeling started to blossom in my stomach, as if in slow motion. I turned around, facing backward toward the road. Long, lonely road, and saw what I expected to see there. But even as much as I knew what I'd see, I still felt the drop in my stomach, the color draining from my face, and I breathed a sharp, cold breath forcefully as it almost caught in my throat. Across the street, the two figures were standing facing me. They started crossing the street slowly but surely. I fumbled with the gas station, or the gas pump, whatever. It had only been a few moments, but it seemed as if the gas pump was taking its precious time. I was shaking hard now, as thunder boomed once more, and I looked back up. The figures were now at the entrance to the gas stop, and my breath was quick and shallow, as I blindly shoved the pump back into its holder, not being able to tear my eyes away from the figures. And from was spelled form. Spell check could have fixed that. Anyway, as they drew closer, I became more frantic, though. As they walked into the flickering light of the overhang, I saw they were just two teenagers. They looked ragged and frigid, and soaked from the rain. I straightened up a bit, still terrified. But another compulsive feeling, similar to the one I experienced in the car, was bubbling, and I felt obligated to talk to these two, though I insisted to myself to just drive away, to not risk anything. They were extremely close now, and the next pump, when I slid into my car, shaking wildly, fumbled for my keys, cursing myself, and dropped them on the floor. Leaning down to swipe them back up. Swipe them back up. Cold, sinking, sickening feeling as I came face to face with one of the teens who had his hand on my window, knocking slowly but forcefully. I rolled down the window a bit, just a bit, no bigger than allowed, maybe a small child's hand through. Before I spoke, he spoke first, the other figure standing in the background, so what I could do. Can you give us a ride into town? We missed the bus and don't have a ride. He spoke slow, and something about his voice made me shiver. He says, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to town. The teenager knocked harsher, maybe jump a little. He insisted for another time for a ride. I told him no. and looked up, trying to seem intimidating, which seemed silly, trying to seem intimidating to a child, but a horrible, chilling sight greeted me. I looked the kid right in the eyes and gasped sharply, my back hitting the seat as I went to back away. How do you back away in the car? I guess you would back up your car. He had eyes. Oh, he did, but they were blacker than the night, pitch black. No discernible pupils. No whatsoever showing. Pure black, deep, brooding, and surprisingly intriguing. But my fear got the better of me, and I quickly turned the key and revved the engine. Oh, I thank God, which I had never had before. Tonight, my car had not stalled and went pull away. The kid banged on my window with a pale fist, screaming for a ride. Oh my God. Oh my God, it's the end of the story. I didn't want to spend any more time outside than I did. Jumped from the car, leaving the car door open, ran inside, slammed the door, locked it, even going as far as to put a chair in front of the front door in case someone, oh my God, this story is terrible. Oh, terrible. Boo. Boo. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Wait, I missed something in the chat here. Something happened. Okay, it's fake. Yeah, no kidding. Django the Slave, hello. Oh, you must not have heard the most recent story. I was reading Django then. I'm 5'11", lanky, try being 5'5". I'm 5'1". Voice still so seductive to me. You must not have heard the more horrible accent I was reading. I'm 5'5", my wife's 5'8". I'm in my head I'm 6'7" or 67. Oh yeah, okay, you changed it. In case you're wondering, I'm a gay woman. No worries, I'm bi. Bi. Fake. Okay. I'm just reading the chat comments here. Seems pretty ridiculous and finding your soulmate to eliminate gender. However, I'm married a man. My soulmate is a dog. Yes, my wife is aware. Oh my God, what's happening right now? You should always read like that. Oh my God, I cannot believe this. I should do a whole video like that. That would be funny. It'd probably piss some people off too. I can't have a dog. My husband is allergic. Read it in a Russian accent. Okay, there's like 2 more. I'll read one in a Russian. Bad story, silly narration. Yeah, I felt it was necessary. The story was so unnecessarily long. Like, why did he put so many horrible, long, drawn out detail? Like, everyone wants to be an award-winning author, and I've said it a million times. That's what I loved about creepypastas is you don't need 14 chapters to get somebody invested in a character and a story. What you need is a really creative mind and an ability to do it. Because if somebody cares about the character, they're going to. By the way, I'm on book 2 of... I got the book last year and totally forgot that I had it. But it's called... it's a White Trash Zombie series. I'm on book 2. And it's really good. It's really, really good. And the author has went into great detail about how the zombie virus or parasite would actually exist and thrive in a human body. And it's in really great detail to the point where, like, I feel like the author might know or be a scientist themselves. Anyway, we're on number 16, and there's a bonus story after, so actually it's 17. I'm going to check the chat. I'm going to try and do a Russian. There's only 8 people watching now because I pissed everybody off and they left. This one is... What happened to my friend? So that's going to be my Russian accent, which is going to suck. I've tried to do a Russian accent before, and it ends up sounding Transylvanian. Oh, let's see. So a month ago, my friend was talking to me about these creepy-ass kids that were hanging around this house. He seemed scared, like he was about to shit his pants, and he doesn't scare easily. He said they always wanted to use his phone and wanted to come in, but he always said no. A week ago, now I sound like I'm like totally different. A week ago, he told me he was going to let them in, and I didn't really give it any attention. But he's been missing ever since. I've gone over to his house, but it's empty and his cell phone number isn't going through. Does anyone know what happened to him? I've heard about the Blackheads kids just now, and I don't know what they do. Is he alive? Please help me. I'm seriously freaked the fuck out. So yeah, so if someone goes missing, instead of calling the police or getting in touch with their family, you would post it on Reddit. That seems the most logical thing to do, right? Post it on Reddit. Dear God. This one is a bonus story posted by Psychotic Land Shark via anonymous thought catalog reader. Okay. I'm going to just see. 7 watching now. I haven't watched it since I was a little kid. Okay, this is the last one here. Let's see. So, it was 1 in the morning, and I was a little late on walking my dog, Dakota. She's a 3-year-old German Shepherd, very tame for a big dog. Not in my entire time having her have I seen her run up to anyone. She gets very nervous around strangers. I live very close to a large park that leads into a hiking trail, and there's a large area that's used as a baseball field. The big entrance into the wilderness surrounded by the trees and darkness. Here's where I let Dakota off the leash and follow behind her as she sniffs around trying to find a spot to do her thing. This night was different, though. As soon as I take her off her leash, she jolts into high speed toward the trail opening. I know many of you are judging me for letting a dog off its leash, and trust me, I know I shouldn't do it, but it's one of those things you just don't tell people you do, like littering or U-turns. Don't litter! Unless it's food. Animals can eat the food. Anyway, plus this was completely out of character for her, and all I could think was, if she goes in there and doesn't come back, I don't think I can go after her. I was not about to get lost in pitch black darkness on a freezing cold night to get eaten by some mountain lions. I'd wait for her and probably call my roommate and tell him I'd be taking longer. But she didn't go in. She was about 8 feet from the entrance when I see a tall, dark figure calmly walk out of the darkness. Anyone else probably would have freaked the fuck out there. Some creep walking out of the woods at this hour? Hell no. But I'm in pretty good shape, 6'5", if anything. People are usually more scared of me than I am of them. Plus, the random weirdo isn't rare in LA, even if this is a middle-class, good suburban neighborhood. So I call for Dakota. But she doesn't move. I've never seen a dog literally follow someone with its gaze, never breaking contact. It just didn't make sense. That's where the uneasiness first kicked in, but it wasn't anything serious. It was just really strange. I start jogging toward her when I notice it's a girl, about 17 to 20, around 5'9", and from what I could see, she was stunning. Long legs, beautiful body, short dark hair almost reaching her shoulders, with a tousled, sexy kind of way. Her long, messy bangs framing her face as she stopped walking to look at Dakota for a second. Couldn't make out her face really, but I didn't see a death-pale girl in a white dress floating like your stereotypical dead girl. I saw a stunning girl in skin-tight dark jeans, boots, dark leather jacket, and from what I could tell, she had a light complexion, but by no means did she look like a ghost. My first thought was maybe if we talk, I can get her number, but then I remember this girl had just walked out of the hiking trail in the middle of the night. I start thinking about a documentary about female serial killers I saw once, but even if she was a crazy person, I still have no idea how she could just walk around up there when the darkness was so thick. I doubt you could see 1 foot in front of you. Even though there was something really off about all this, when I saw her stop to look at Dakota, again I slightly said to her, "Don't worry, she's harmless." To which she completely ignores me and continues walking. I think, okay. I didn't expect someone who walks around the woods in the middle of the night to keep a conversation going. I put Dakota's leash on, but she doesn't budge. All she does is a couple of steps toward the girl, then stops whenever the girl looks back at her. "I think she likes you," I say, to which again the girl just looks at Dakota. All this felt really weird, almost like a dream, like a light feeling in that silence that almost sounds like you're underwater. No matter how much you try to act cool, this was not normal. So here I am trying to get my paralyzed dog to budge, when an intimidating, mysterious girl doesn't break eye contact with her. I was stuck between I'm so embarrassed and she's going to pepper spray me when she takes 1 step toward Dakota, and my dog has her tail in between her legs and is whimpering like she's seen the devil. That's when I knew I had to go. If anyone knows when something's up, it's a It's a dog, and as soon as this girl's walking again, I pick up my 60-pound dog by the stomach and start speed walking back. I probably look like a total idiot, but I don't care. Whatever dreamlike state I was in before I had been broken by my dog's attitude, everything inside me was telling me to go home. So I'm halfway across the field when I put my dog's leash on and set her down, and she doesn't budge again. I think, are you fucking kidding me? I'll drag this dog when I almost threw up as I turn around to see this fucking girl standing on some bleachers not even 10 feet from me, and I can see her face now in the light. I shit you not, this girl was beautiful, but her eyes were blacker than black. They filled her entire eyeball. Just these two shiny orbs inside of two almond-shaped sockets. She looked completely different from the serious expression I could make out before. Fucking swear I wanted to run, but something made me stay. I felt like I was so scared that I could hear a faint high-pitched humming in my ears, and my entire body felt heavy. I wanted to run more than anything. I could have thought, oh, a strange chick in Halloween contacts. But I can't explain the feeling of absolute paralyzing terror I experienced without any rationalization. I didn't have time to go. These feelings hit me like a fucking train, and I hope to God I never feel as helpless and as mortified as I did then. There's no way she was human. She wasn't a regular girl, and to make things worse, this girl says in a sultry, sweet tone that I'd expected to sound like something from beyond the grave, "Does she bite?" And still on defense mode, I think I managed to mutter out an idea of no. I don't know if anyone else knows what I mean when I say I felt like as soon as I blinked again, she would be standing right in front of me. But she did. As soon as I finished saying no, she waited a couple of seconds before saying, "Do you live nearby?" To which I was going to say no, even though I did, but as soon as I went to speak, she said, "Did you drive here?" And I start walking back, trying to distance myself slowly. And again, before I speak, she says, "I'm going to need you to come with me. You'll let me come with you. That's okay, right?" "It's okay. Don't be afraid." And with that, Dakota fucking books it. I start running like a scared child, and my dog is right in front of me. And I don't stop till I catch up with my dog. We're at the other side of the street, and I take this time to turn around and make sure she isn't following me. She's calmly walking back, already all the way to the other side of the park where she was before. I called my roommate to meet me halfway with the car on my way back home, and I've never walked my dog after dark again. Well, that one was scary. That one seemed legit. It could have been fake, but it seemed legit. You know, they say don't yell rape, yell fire, because people actually ignore the word rape. Yeah. Bye, Adam, bye. I'll pay you later. For what now? What's going on? I missed something in the chat here. Hey, Case Lee. I missed something. Wait, so they can't see anything, but they can actually measure. It's exactly 8 feet and also recognize a hot chick? Yeah, I know. Teeth like Dracula or a vampire sounds like now's the time to yell rape, demanding someone to come with you. Short hurry, I'm officially out of chocolate. This is a crisis. Sicken boy. Yeah, we're going on 2 hours now, so I'm going to wrap it up soon, but man, I love me some Black Eyed Kid stories, and I'm going to go back and try and find that guy's channel so I can link it in the comment section after the live stream isn't live anymore. This guy has an entire channel where he says like he has Black Eyed Kids on his property, or at least he did. I don't even know if the channel exists anymore. Last time I looked was like at least 6 months ago, if not longer. I spent a whole day going through his content where he would say he saw stuff around his house, but I would never see anything. So I don't know. I'm curious to see if it's still there, and I'll show it to you guys. Say teeth dog. Teeth dog. Anyway, so I think I'm going to wrap it up now, and I'll have something for you on Saturday. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be a serial killer or not. I'm leaning more toward yes than no. But oh, I got ya. You tell your dog to show his teeth, and then he shows them. Gotcha. All right. My dog's not like that at all. She's a little teddy bear. Well, she thinks she's little. She's a dog she's not enormous. She's probably like 50 pounds, but I think she thinks she's 5 pounds. So with that, I'm going to say bye and thank you for coming, and probably do another live stream on Tuesday. I want to try to make the movie reviews on Monday, so it'd be like Movie Monday, no matter what it is, since we're coming fresh off of it on Sunday night. Woohoo! That's a movie I've loved. The previews have been really scary, so that should be good. I'm excited. All right, thank you for coming. I'm wrapping it up. See you guys next time, and bye, bye, bye.